So Neha has really given me a very great introduction. So my name is Sara. I'm very passionate about job redesign because of its application to create a productive and inclusive workforce. A lot of my most gratifying moments in consulting is to really look at ways to help workers automate their work processes using technology. And at times when you help an employee save 40% or 50% of their time of the day, it's always a very nice feeling. So I will actually want to begin our conversation on a video on future of work. And note that this is produced by Deloitte, and it was actually produced 3 years ago.
Imagine the future of work. What do you see? Do you see factories full of robots and offices teeming with AI? Do you predict that changing demographics will rewrite the rules of who works and how long? Do you anticipate the rise of a global gig economy where most people are working for themselves? All of these scenarios are emerging. Looking at them in isolation misses the point. We need to zoom out and see the big picture. Evolving technology, demographics, and power dynamics are all connected, and those connections make all the difference in the future of work. If intelligent machines can do many tasks now performed by people, what uniquely human skills will be valued? If the half-life of skills necessary for employment continues to dwindle, how can individuals, employers, and society as a whole ensure the learning modules in the education system keep up? As the global workforce gets older, younger, and more diverse, how will leaders and organizational culture have to adapt? Alternative work arrangements like short-term gigs and self-employment become more ubiquitous and mainstream. Could that have profound effects on not just how we work, but where we work, how we communicate, and even how cities are designed? If augmented reality gives workers access to vast amounts of data and assistance, will workers need to become more tech-fluent for the technology to deliver on its promise? The future of work is coming. In some cases, it's already here.
And if we were to fast forward the timeline by 3 years with the pandemic hitting us by surprise, the major themes relating to future of work stays largely the same. If you were to think about it, our interest in technology and automation has increased. Businesses are looking to automate for the humans and at the same time requiring us to perform with new skill sets. So referring to that graphic CK had just shared on, robots replacing humans, a lot of times as we think about the job redesign journey with clients, when we speak to workers, the very fear that they share with us or the questions that we are often asked is, are you going to replace me with a robot? Maybe yes, maybe no. But I think that the point that we often have yet to really talk about and think about is, despite technology having the effect of alleviating our workload and reducing the time we need to work, it really does not mean it will replace humans in entirety. It's quite not possible at this point in time. If we were to look at some numbers, a report produced by the World Economic Forum back in 2018, even though it's likely to impact 75 million jobs worldwide, at the same time, 113 million jobs will emerge with technology. So the net effect is still 58 million jobs being created. The question here is really, how do we think about evolving alongside with technology so that we stay relevant? The other two themes we see in the video here, it's the piece around multi-generation workforce. CK also spoke about that. We are now having a large number of generation in workforce from baby boomers to Gen Z. How do we think about ways to work with them in a way that is inclusive and also best harness their various abilities? The third piece on gig economy is still very much focused in today's conversation. If anything, it has elevated as we look to augment our workforce with gig workers, either for their technical subject matter expertise or to lean on flexible workforce to help the business manage surge during peak seasons. So the pandemic has got us focused and thinking harder about the future of work, what this means to any organizations or us as individuals. However, as we start thinking about the future of work, we also need to first understand the future of the business. So if we were to really reflect on some of the trends we have seen during and post-pandemic, first of all, I've been very impressed by how quickly organizations adapted and showcase our ability to innovate at rapid pace, and by also leveraging their existing capabilities. If you were to look at high-end fashion retailer Louis Vuitton, they started using their fragrance facilities to produce hand sanitizers instead of perfumes, to help increase the supply of hand sanitizers. Sets Limited in Singapore started using their central kitchen facilities to prepare meals for healthcare workers and migrant workers instead of the airlines. We were actually left with no choice but to turn into remote working almost immediately, which stress tests the resilience of our business operating models. And at the same time, we are also studying the impact of other businesses within the entire ecosystem, such as businesses that are dependent on office work. And I'm referring to, say, smaller F&B businesses or dry cleaning services that are situated at prime business locations. The future of these businesses is uncertain because it is dependent on how remote working situation evolves. And as such, we see organizations moving into and operating on a survival mode. We are seeing a lot of stringent cost containment measures, delaying non-critical capital expenditure, right-sizing pay cuts, furloughs, and layoffs coming, if not already. And the last piece is very similar to what we've spoken about earlier. Organizations are a lot more motivated to accelerate technology uptake as compared to in the past. There are less resistance. And as such, we can expect that the design of our jobs will change faster as technology frees up time for other activities and requiring us to reskill. So, and as we move on to really understand the impact on you and I as individuals, if we were to just reflect on ourselves, think about the amount of changes that has been imposed on us within a very short time frame. We quickly adapted to remote working. We had to adapt with how we work at home with loved ones and colleagues. We need to rethink about how we engage clients and customers, and yet work towards the same type of outcomes we have originally set ourselves for. The conditions had changed so much, and yet we need to then worry about broader economic impact on our job security, our financial security, and definitely physical as well. Thinking about health and wellness, the exposure to virus, and also the additional mental stress that one has to undertake. Whilst going through all of the changes we just spoke about, we also start to understand that the digitalization trend is here to stay. Our employers will continue to intensify technology adoption and business remodeling, and we need to also quickly adapt in order to sustain and contribute. So from an employment perspective, some of the pre-COVID trends remain, such as a pursuit of for meaningful work beyond pay. We can see that employees are expecting their organizations to be accountable for broader responsibilities beyond profitability of the organization. So we're speaking about environment, social, and governance responsibilities. I do think we look forward to more transparency on decision making and being able to perform in an open and inclusive work environment. So with what we have just discussed as the backdrop, and we are in All Things Connected workshop. So to help us navigate the new world of work, we need to review and reconnect the 6 topics here, which I'll cover more in detail as we move on. So the first piece on technology adoption and skills, with technology being the key enabler for the business, many organizations are turning to it to expand current operations or simplify processes. Either way, it will significantly change the way we perform our current jobs. And when adopting technology, we do need to be clear about the problems we are trying to solve for the organization, such as, think about how do we go about reviewing existing models and processes and identifying new potential opportunities. Definitely leverage on data to understand work processes that are traditionally laborious and manual, explore ways to then automate and to save time. So at the same time, when we think about tech changes, it may at times be very overwhelming because reviewing the entire process chain or value chain. Look out for quick wins to help you gain some footing in the automation journey. So in some parts of our work with our clients, as we look into job redesign, we look for very specific tasks that's been very manual and time consuming and painful. We install very simple solutions to help people appreciate that automation is not always a scary process. It's aimed to alleviate rather than to disrupt. So, for example, we have worked with a small retailer back in Singapore, and we noticed that their call center associate spends half of a day just calling every single customer to confirm furniture delivery appointments. And all we realized that what we had to do is to just switch into a text automation process. We completely save 40% of the time on a daily basis. It simplified the customer engagement process, and we could then, kind of get the customer service associates to pick up new skill sets. So as you work towards transforming or automating a process, concurrently think about new skill sets that are required of your employees, help them understand the rationale for change, provide them with the necessary support to transit them into the new mode. I highly recommend involving the employees in the entire work redesign process right at the start. In our experience, this is always a critical success factor. Employees who perform the task on a regular basis, they really know what needs to be fixed, but at times they're not given the airtime to share it. So, and this also instills the process redesign and ownership on the employee, which usually results in higher buy-in, smoother execution, and also a more natural transition in the process. And moving on to the next point on remote working, prior to the pandemic, only 50% of organizations out there provide remote or flexible working options, and Mercer, we conducted a flexible work study back in 2018. What we learned was that 1 in 3 flexible work requests were actually being turned down by employers. So, however, through the course of COVID, we know that organizations have switched into 100% remote, and there are organizations leaning towards the idea that working from home option is here to stay. We were left with no choice, but we transited very quickly. At present stage, we are still observing the impact, such as on productivity and employee morale of remote working. Some of us are learning how to do that effectively, like how to carve out separate time and how to balance the actual workload. So for organizations moving back to the new normal, take time to realign and understand what the post-pandemic business state is, and holistically assess if roles in your organization can be converted into permanent work from home models. This may in turn reduce real estate costs. It also erases the physical or geographical limits we have traditionally imposed on ourselves. You no longer need to hire from a location within a specific physical radius from your office. Your access to talent has widened significantly with remote working as an option. And likewise, this trend will apply for job seekers as this widens your employment opportunities beyond your typical locations. And with an unprecedented proportion of the workforce moving into remote working, this is probably the most challenging period for those who have leadership or managerial responsibilities. On top of the typical day-to-day work, the leaders are thinking about the long-term viability of their businesses and teams, strategizing new ideas, trying and testing new ideas. The one thing that we no longer have is the access to the general vibe, entering the meeting room or observing the work momentum in the office to manage workload or employees. So we now need to think about new ways to manage the team and business effectively to get things done, and to also maintain the engagement of employees during this exceedingly difficult period. So employees are experiencing so much more emotions during this period. Some might be experiencing grief due to COVID, isolation, additional stress, burnout, because we are still learning about how to manage workload, and also the piece around the future uncertainty. So it's important that we keep the morale and engagement well during this period. It's difficult to get to a high morale. If left unmanaged, it could lead to longer term issues post-COVID recovery. So we have seen organizations increasing efforts on their employee listening exercise. They either launch more surveys to understand the general sentiment or to collect feedback. And we also see leaders increasing the number of town halls, daily briefs, and look for ways to engage colleagues more often on a one-on-one basis so that there's a chance to hear from the employees personally. I think the key here is to conduct open, transparent, and compassionate conversations during this period. CK spoke a little bit about this. It's likely that traditional, chunky command and control type of organization is losing its effectiveness and possibly not the best structure if remote working is here to stay. So the market, clients, and employees do expect us to react faster, quicker as we adapt in the new economy. So we do expect to see a rise of informal, agile project team structure. And this actually does promote cross-function collaboration and learning, reduces the typical silos we had in traditional organizations. And as we move towards more fluid work environment, it's likely that we are hiring individuals for their skill sets as opposed to hiring them to fit into a box within a structure. I do think this would be a draw for the small, medium enterprises, and they should leverage that a lot more because they are likely to have less structure today. They are it's easier for them to quickly deploy people to work in smaller project teams across function. The takeaway for large organizations is to really move towards empowering and decentralized decision-making models, which may take time to build. And a topic that's really close to that is the piece around gig workforce as the future talent source. It is reported that the gig platforms are actually observing high web traffic. More organizations are considering to increase their population of their gig workforce. Similarly, on the supply side of the equation, we expect more in the labor force to participate in a gig economy as we grapple with high unemployment rates and changing lifestyle, where more are actually seeking flexible work options. The beauty of the gig economy is that it offers win-win arrangements for employers and the workforce. It provides companies a range of talent and expertise that could otherwise be difficult to deploy at the end of the project. It also helps company manage any additional search and workload, and and provides a wider range of talent with what we have just spoke about earlier. We can also expect that the manpower regulations or market conditions to adapt accordingly for the gig workforce in the future. It could be in a form of minimum wage or tax considerations, and these are considerations that we need to be kept updated from a human capital risk management perspective. And moving on to the last topic on rejuvenating the employee experience. So we have discussed very heavily on the amount of changes that transcended upon us in the past couple of months, and it certainly impacted various parts of the value chain and employee experience. It is very likely that we have imposed certain changes along the way, but we have yet to have time to rethink the entire, be it value chain journey or the employee experience journey. So it is actually time for us to think about that with care, and during this period, be very purposeful about the changes, articulate the new direction, the new visions, and how this links back to an individual's day-to-day jobs. Rethink ways to onboard new employees, or how we deploy people on projects, and understand that it is a sensitive and difficult time. So focus on areas to enhance the physical and mental well-being of employees. We see organizations investing in that during this period. And with this, I will end my part of the presentation and turn it on to the next speaker.